Things are heating up in EastEnders next week as Grant Mitchell continues growing closer to Linda Carter, but not everyone in Walford is thrilled about it. After weeks of emotional support, subtle flirting and a night of passion, Grant seems determined to pursue things with Linda properly. However, while sparks continue to fly between the pair, tensions begin building elsewhere as family drama and secrets begin to unravel. Viewers recently saw Linda struggle with her fractured relationship with Johnny Carter after deciding she wanted to sell her shares in the salon to help him financially. But Johnny refused to accept the money, telling his mom to leave him alone. At the same time, Grant stepped in once again to support Linda, even trying to cheer her up by inviting her out to lunch. Although she initially took her frustrations out on him, Grant later offered Johnny some advice of his own, encouraging him to appreciate Linda while he still could. Things soon took a romantic turn when Johnny apologized to Linda and suggested she should stop focusing on everyone else for once and finally do something for herself. Later, Linda apologized to Grant for snapping at him, before Grant admitted he liked her and leaned in for a kiss. And it seems that move could be the start of something much bigger. Next week, Grant continues helping Linda repair things with Johnny, with the pair eventually agreeing to meet for a drink as they attempt to move forward. But while Linda's family life slowly improves, Grant finds himself pulled into another Mitchell family crisis. Mark Fowler becomes increasingly panicked over the debt he owes to a dangerous gang, with pressure mounting fast. Sam Mitchell urges him to swallow his pride and ask Grant for help, although Mark is reluctant to drag him into the situation. After some encouragement from Lauren Branning, Mark eventually agrees, but things quickly become tense when he notices Grant flirting with Linda. The awkward moment soon erupts into an argument, hinting that Mark may not be entirely comfortable with how close Grant and Linda are becoming. Sam later attempts to get through to Mark and questions him about where things really stand with Lauren. Meanwhile, Lauren and Mark clash over problems at the car lot, when she reveals there's no room for more vehicles, leaving Mark under even more pressure. Eventually, the stress becomes too much and Mark confides in Vicky Fowler about the money he owes. Wanting to help, Vicky encourages him to speak to Phil Mitchell, who agrees to loan him £30,000 to buy himself more time with the gang. But the drama doesn't stop there. After hearing about Mark's situation from Sam, Grant decides he wants to help too. Both Phil and Mark make it clear they don't want him getting involved, but Grant ignores their warnings and takes matters into his own hands by confronting Mark's boss himself. Unsurprisingly, things go badly wrong. Old tensions and unresolved issues quickly resurface, causing the situation to spiral further out of control. Soon after, Mark's dangerous boss Russell turns up at number 43 and shocks Vicky by revealing the full truth about Mark's debt problems. When Vicky confronts Mark with what she's learned, he's furious, especially once he realizes Grant has interfered behind his back. A raging Mark later storms over to number 55 and tells Grant to stay out of his life for good. Meanwhile, Lauren's suspicions begin growing after conversations with Max and Vicky leave her questioning whether Mark's car business is entirely legitimate. She heads to the Arches demanding answers, but Mark insists everything is above board. Later on, Sam comes up with a possible solution and gives Mark an idea that could help convince Lauren to trust him again. Away from the financial chaos, there's also more fallout brewing from Linda and Grant's growing connection. After arriving together at Max and Cindy's birthday celebrations this week, tensions were already high when Max Branning made a pointed dig at Linda, joking that he'd heard her with a man the night before, unaware she had actually spent the night with Grant. Elaine quickly worked out exactly who Linda had been with, while Max appeared distracted by problems in his own relationship with Cindy Beale before later asking Cindy to move in with him. But with Grant becoming more protective of Linda and emotions running high across Albert Square, it's clear that their new romance is already causing drama. The rain hammered down on Albert Square as darkness wrapped around Walford like a warning. Inside the Vic, the usual chatter had dulled into uneasy whispers. Everyone could feel it. Something was changing again. And at the center of it all stood Grant Mitchell. EastEnders fans had watched Grant swagger back into Walford with that familiar dangerous confidence. But this time his focus wasn't revenge, business, or family feuds. It was Linda Carter. Grant Mitchell leaned against the bar, watching Linda pull another pint with forced cheerfulness. Her smile fooled the customers but not him. Grant had always been good at spotting pain hidden behind brave faces. You look shattered, he muttered quietly as the pub emptied. Linda sighed. Cheers for the compliment. I'm serious. Linda Carter avoided eye contact. The past few months had taken their toll. Between family pressures, financial struggles, and emotional scars she never fully dealt with, Linda felt like she was barely holding herself together. Grant noticed. And that was dangerous, because Grant Mitchell didn't do gentle affection halfway. Over the following days, the square began to notice the growing closeness between them. Grant started appearing in the Vic more often. He fixed broken shelves without being asked. He walked Linda home after late shifts. He made her laugh, real laughs that hadn't been heard in months. But not everyone was smiling. Sharon spotted it first. You're playing with fire, Sharon Watts warned Linda one afternoon. Linda rolled her eyes. We're friends. Grant Mitchell doesn't do friendship with women he looks at like that. The comment lingered in Linda's mind long after Sharon walked away. Because deep down Linda knew Sharon was right. Grant's feelings were becoming impossible to ignore. One evening after closing time, Grant found Linda sitting alone in the empty pub staring at an unpaid stack of bills. You all right? He asked softly. Linda laughed bitterly. Does it look like I'm all right? Without a word, Grant sat beside her. For a moment silence filled the room. Then Linda spoke again. I'm tired, Grant. Tired of pretending everything's under control. Grant looked at her carefully. Then stop pretending. That simple sentence broke something inside her. Tears filled Linda's eyes before she could stop them. Grant instinctively moved closer, placing a hand over hers. Unlike other people in her life, he wasn't trying to fix her. He was just there. And somehow that meant everything. But outside the pub window, someone had seen the moment. And they were furious. The next morning, gossip exploded across Albert Square. By lunchtime, nearly everyone had heard whispers about Grant and Linda growing too close. Kat smirked behind the market stall. Typical Grant, Kat Slater laughed. Man comes back 5 minutes and starts causing chaos. But others were more concerned. Especially Johnny Carter. Linda's son confronted her in the kitchen of the Vic later that day. You can't seriously trust Grant Mitchell, Johnny snapped. Linda folded her arms defensively. He's been helping me. He's Grant Mitchell. He destroys everything he touches. His words stung because part of Linda feared he might be right. Still, she couldn't deny the comfort Grant brought into her life. Meanwhile, Grant was dealing with enemies of his own. Phil wasn't impressed by his growing interest in Linda. You never learn, do you? Phil Mitchell growled during a tense conversation at the Arches. Grant smirked. What's your problem? My problem is you charging into people's lives like a wrecking ball. Grant's expression darkened. She needs someone. Phil scoffed. And you think that someone's you? The brothers stared each other down in a clash decades in the making. But Phil's warning hit harder than Grant admitted. Because beneath all the confidence, Grant knew his history. Failed relationships. Violence. Chaos. Pain. He carried destruction with him everywhere. And Linda deserved better than destruction. Didn't she? Days later, tensions finally exploded during a crowded evening inside the Vic. A drunk customer made a cruel comment about Linda's past struggles, mocking her loudly in front of everyone. The pub fell silent. Before Linda could react, Grant grabbed the man by the collar and slammed him against the bar. You say one more word about her, Grant hissed, and you'll regret it. The customer stumbled away terrified as chaos erupted around the pub. Linda pulled Grant back furiously. What are you doing? Defending you. I didn't ask you to. Grant froze. The entire pub watched the confrontation unfold. You can't solve everything with aggression, Linda snapped, her voice cracking emotionally. Grant looked wounded. I was trying to help. No, Linda whispered sadly. You were trying to be Grant Mitchell. The words hit him like a punch. Without another word, Grant walked out of the Vic into the pouring rain. For the first time since returning to Walford, he looked completely lost. Back inside, Linda struggled to steady herself. Her anger faded almost instantly, replaced by guilt. Because despite everything, she knew Grant genuinely cared. But caring about someone and being good for them were two very different things. The next few days became painfully awkward. Grant avoided the Vic completely. Linda kept glancing at the door hoping he'd appear. Even Sharon noticed. "You miss him," she said quietly. Linda denied it immediately. But she was lying. Finally, unable to ignore her feelings any longer, Linda went searching for Grant. She found him sitting alone near the canal late at night. For several seconds neither of them spoke. Then Linda sat beside him. "You disappeared." Grant shrugged. "Thought maybe I should." Linda looked down at the dark water. "You scared me the other night." "I know. But that idiot deserved what he got." Grant laughed quietly for the first time in days. Then his expression turned serious. "I don't know how to do this properly, Linda." "Do what?" "Care about someone without ruining it." The vulnerability in his voice caught her off guard. Grant Mitchell, the Hardman feared across Walford, suddenly looked heartbreakingly human. Linda reached for his hand. "Maybe neither of us knows what we're doing." Grant stared at her. Slowly, carefully, he moved closer. Their faces inches apart. But before anything could happen, a furious voice interrupted them. "Are you kidding me?" Johnny stood nearby, horrified. The moment shattered instantly. Grant stepped back while Linda looked torn between guilt and frustration. Johnny shook his head in disbelief. "He'll hurt you, Mom. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But he will." Grant said nothing because deep down, he feared Johnny might be right. As Johnny stormed away, Linda remained frozen beside Grant, uncertainty written all over her face. And for the first time, Grant wondered whether walking away from Linda might actually be the only way to protect her. But in Albert Square, walking away from feelings was never that simple. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to EastEnders Spoilers Official.